Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and I'm so excited about today's show, which comes right out of a page from my personal life. Of course. If you don't belong to the Secret Sauce group, this is where I'm recording this. Go to the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating Now in Facebook. It's a private Facebook group. Ask to join. We'd love to have you. And that's where we support each other in our journeys to overcome emotional eating. So the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating, that's where this is being recorded live. You can comment. I will comment. I'd love to say hello to you. Join us there. It's a great place to be a part of. And not only that, but I'd love for you to review and rate the show and share it with other people. So please review and share with other people so they know about the Heal Your Hunger show, because after all, we want to carry this message of hope to those who are sick and tired of struggling with food and weight. After all, sick and tired of the diet roller coaster ride. So at the Heal Your Hunger show, we talk about real issues, the real stuff of life that drives us to eating. Okay. So this is about, really addressing, the internal emotions that drive us to the kitchen, that drive emotional eating. So no more weight loss, hacks. Okay. We're really talking about weight loss from the inside out by dealing with what's inside. So welcome if you're here for the first time. Welcome back if you've been here before. I'm very grateful to have you with us. So on with the show. I hope you've had an amazing week. I'm super excited to talk to you here and to present a topic that I think will be super helpful, because after all, relationships are something that give us much of the stress that we eat over. Am I right or am I right? Okay, so if you're here, please say hello. Please post in the chat. If you're watching later, please post in the chat and say hello as well, because I'm always popping in here to see people's comments and to continue the conversation. So, this topic comes right out of my, my life. As always, I'm going to share with you just, this is where I get my inspiration, is what goes on for me in my life. I am an emotional eater after all. And if I don't deal with my living problem, I will soon have an eating problem. So the reason why the work I do with Heal Your Hunger and the Heal Your Hunger show and my recordings here, the reason why I talk so much about life stuff is because it isn't an eating problem that we suffer from. It's really a living problem. And so I'm here to present solutions for living and solutions for living more effectively, so that we don't build up stress and pain that we then turn to food to try to cover up, numb, snuff out, avoid, because that's why we eat. We don't eat just because we love food. Hey, I love food. I'm the first to admit, but my eating, my destructive eating came from the pain I had that I just didn't quite know how to navigate. And I used food to just shut down. So let's talk about how to avoid creating pain in relationships. And I'm going to talk to you about the art of non-attachment. And I'm seeing that most of the pain that comes in relationships comes from attachment. Not only attachment to people, but attachment to ideas about how everything should be, right? So so thanks for indulging me here. And again, please comment. I'd love to see your comments and keep the exploration going. So, as I said, this comes from my personal experience, and I've had an experience the past couple, weeks of having a few relationships seemingly coming to an end. I don't know this for sure because it's always a day at a time, but I have a couple, relationships with girlfriends that have kind of gone south. And these are people I love very dearly and deeply. And so this has caused me some heartache. And I'm certainly not faultless in this. I've played a part, I think, and unknowingly. And then when I do see my part, I always do my best to try to own it. But in one of the relationships, I haven't really seen it. And I don't know if it's over or not. And I'm okay with it either way. And this is where that non-attachment comes in, is what I'm learning from these experiences is that, I need to be okay with whatever is, and the pain for me comes when I hold on and I lament, or I try to change it, or I try to make it be something other than it is. And so I'm sort of just in the space of saying, these are two relationships that might be ending. They might be ending, or at least for a time, they might be ending. And I don't want to be in pain about this. And I've got a lot on my plate. I've got a busy life. And so I don't want to be derailed by this. And I could be, in the past, I would have been really in gut wrenching pain about it and trying to fix it. But in this new iteration of myself, I've been, doing my best to become a better version of me over the years. So in this updated version of me, I want to just let it be, whatever it is, I want to let it be. And what helps me do that is to recognize that, first of all, I'm not in charge. And second, this might be for the highest and best good for all of us. And if I don't have a death grip on the relationship, if I'm not holding on, if I'm not trying to force my will in it, it will be whatever it's meant to be. And boy, does that open up the energy, when I just let it be what it's meant to be. Perhaps I'm not a fit for these people, and perhaps these people aren't a fit for me any longer. And so just letting that be okay takes away the pain, the struggle, and the fight. And it enables me to keep going on with my life. And not that I don't have sadness about it. I do. I have moments of sadness and grief, but at the same time, I'm just sort of wearing it like a loose garment and realizing, hey, it's just not meant to be right now. And I tell you, that attitude, that philosophy is so helpful. It's so helpful. And back to what I said about so much of our pain is from the attachment. Now, as many of you know, if you listen to my podcast, I left my marriage of, a long time, many decades. We weren't married for many decades, just one, but we were together for 3 decades. So I left that relationship 2 years ago, because it was no longer a fit for me. And when it was painful holding on for a long time. Like, nobody ever just ups and leaves their marriage. Let's be clear, right? So you live in a lot of pain for a while, because you want to stay married, you want to be committed, you want to work it out, you want it to work. So I definitely did my best to hang in there. But in those moments when you're trying to do your best, but it's really not working, there's pain, there's friction there, and struggle and strife. And so I had several years of that, but I did finally leave, and I'm so grateful I did. And the nice thing about letting relationships go when they are no longer a fit is that you leave space for something new. And so after 30 years of being with the same person, I was now in my 50s and open to new relationships. And I've had some wonderful experiences with a few people. More recently, I did break up with a man I was dating for 15 months. And that was no longer a fit for me. I wasn't totally ready to let it go, but I saw the writing on the wall, and I saw that long-term it wasn't going to be a fit. And that's exactly what I shared with this person, that I didn't think we were a fit long-term. So I let it go. I let him go, and he was pretty devastated by that. That's the word he continued to use in any texts I received from him, which were few because he didn't really want to talk. But the few words that he did use, devastated, showed up a few times. So, that's pretty dramatic. And I, not to invalidate his feelings, that's where he was at. But what I saw in some ways is that attachment might have been adding to that feeling of devastation. Not that, I mean, we both were very, very connected, and we went pretty deep, in our connection. So I had a lot of grief as well. So it's not like when you end a relationship, you don't have pain, you do. But what I also noticed about this person is, a difference between us was that, from the beginning in this relationship, I said, hey, let's take it a day at a time. Like, I don't know, like I'm pretty new out of my long-term relationship. So I want to take this a day at a time. Like, I'm not clear that you're the one. I'm not clear that this is forever in this lifetime. So it would help me if we took it a day at a time. And he acquiesced to that philosophy, but I don't think it totally worked for him, because I was the one for him. I was the one. He wanted to get married. He talked about marriage. He tried not to because he knew I was not there, but he still had an idea of his mind of marrying me, and an idea of where he was going to marry me, because he had an attachment to a place and a vision of marrying me in a church in England, something that was part of his upbringing where he grew up. And again, attachment to ideas can bring pain as well. So he had this attachment to this idea of getting married in this church in England. And I never said yes to that. I never said yes to marriage, let alone where we're going to get married. But this was an idea that was pretty fixed for him. And my experience is any fixed ideas that we have can lead to pain because we hold on too tightly. When we have a fixed idea, it's fixed, it's not fluid, it's, and we tend to hold on too tightly to fixed ideas. That's what makes them fixed, is we're holding on. And so that was a problem. And so I just observed that about him, that maybe some of his feelings of pain around ending this relationship. Obviously, it doesn't feel good to be left, or dumped or whatever. That's a terrible word, and I don't feel like I dumped him, but that's probably how he feels. And so that, of course, led to his feelings of grief. But I also believe his own fixed ideas about the relationship, as much as I tried to, caution him and tell him it was a day at a time for us. Not that I had one foot out of the door either. I played all out in that relationship, but also with a sense of, non-attachment, like one day at a time. Let's enjoy it for what it is, but let's not future trip. Let's not go into the future about what it will be, because to me, that's where the pain shows up, So this idea of non-attachment is most well known as a Buddhist concept. Okay, it's very much fundamental to the philosophy and religion of Buddhism. And Buddhists once said or probably said it lots of times, you only lose what you cling to. You only lose what you cling to. And I have to say that this was a main source of conflict between me and my ex-husband, the man I was with for so long that I left, was this idea of attachment, because my ex-husband, in my belief, was too attached to me and too dependent on me as his source, as his, companion, as his one and only source of emotional support. And so much so that many a time I would tell him, I feel trapped. I feel strangled. I use some pretty strong words. I feel like a hostage. And I would say that to him at different times in our relationship, because I felt like he was too attached. And I am a free spirit. This is something I've come to learn about myself. It took me years to accept this about myself and to really realize it and to embrace it, is that I'm a free spirit. I'm not to be tied down. I'm not to be trapped. and that doesn't mean I just do whatever I want to do without any commitment, but it means that there has to be some space, there has to be some fluidity to relationship, and Thich Nhat Hanh, who is an amazing writer, author, and spiritual leader in his own right, in the work that he does around Buddhist philosophy, as he says, love in such a way that the person you love feels free. Love in such a way that the person you love feels free. And I love that, because the last thing you want to do is hold on too tight to someone. The last thing you want to do is have that person be your everything, to where, you trap them, or for you to be somebody's everything to the point where they feel trapped. It's not good for a relationship. It's not healthy. And I felt like we couldn't be our best selves when we were enmeshed in a codependent, too dependent, interdependent relationship. And I was trying in that relationship with my ex, I was trying to move beyond that. But it's hard to do when one person's wanting to stay really attached and the other person's trying to breathe, let some air into the relationship. And there's conflict in that. And I ultimately left because I didn't feel free. That feeling of being a hostage, not a good feeling, and not good for a free spirit, not good for a free spirit. So, I am so grateful that I followed my heart, and I thought, this doesn't feel good to me, and it doesn't feel healthy, and I don't feel like I'm in service to him either by allowing him to be this attached. So, and, we're still really good friends, and he's done an amazing job of finding new support systems and kind of opening his life to more support as well. And I'm still, in support of him, but not in that really unhealthy way that I feel like we devolved into. So again, back to this idea of non-attachment. It's such a beautiful concept, but it's a real concept. Like, it's really, really, really important that we not get too attached to other people. And I had been attached to him in an unhealthy way as well for many years. It's just when I realized it about 15 years into the relationship, I started to do things to get unattached. And so when I realized, wow, this person is my everything, and I don't have a whole lot else, that was in about 2004, I began to reach outside for more support systems. I began to reconnect with my family. I had been somewhat, distant from them. I began to find other sources of support and inspiration. And, it just helped me so much to start, having 4 legs under my table instead of 1 leg under my table, and have many ways that I was supported in my life, and many ways that I was connected with many people. It gave me a lot more grounded feelings. So it wasn't good for me to be overly dependent, of course, either. So I'm just throwing these ideas out to you in case some of them make sense to you, and maybe you can use this in your own journey through relationships. Now, there's a saying that relationships are for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And so I love that, because it's true. It's true. And this has helped me as I navigate relationships through, post marriage, basically. So reason, season, and a lifetime. This is hard. It's a hard concept, I think, for us when we're deeply embroiled in relationships, to realize that they aren't all going to last forever, and that relationships are there to serve a purpose in our lives. And this could be a relationship for the purpose of learning something, literally just for the lesson, and we do learn from each other, and relationships do teach us lessons if we're willing to see them. If we're willing to see them. The relationship I left of 15 months, I'm still kind of working that out. That was obviously for a season. It was a season of 15 months. And there are things I certainly learned from it. I don't know if you could put it in one of the categories, reason or a season. It was a season and there was a reason, so I'm still trying to figure that out. But in some ways I repeated some patterns with that relationship as I had in my relationship with my husband. So, I hadn't quite moved beyond some of my patterns with men. So I repeated some patterns in that relationship. And for that reason, I needed to move on, because I started to wake up to the fact of like, wait a minute, been here, done that, what am I doing again? Like, why am I doing this again? So that was part of the impetus of my moving on, is like, you know what? I don't need this role in my life. I don't need to play this role in this relationship or in any relationship. I'm ready to move on from this. So that was one of the reasons why I think maybe I or at least seeing that created a lesson for me. Super, super important to see. Also, I think that it's really important to realize that we deserve to have our relationships feel really good, and anytime they don't feel good, I realize some people are in really long-term relationships and it's not something they would walk away from, but anytime you can take actions to be different in the relationship, it's not easy. You're going to get pushback when you try to be different. As I said, 15 years into my 30-year relationship with my ex-husband, I started to make changes, and it took 15 years of changes to grow out of that relationship. So I was making changes in that relationship for 15 years. And I'm really proud of myself for that. I have to say, like, when I recognized there was some unhealthy dependencies, I really took actions to make changes in my life. And that's where, I think being supported in a community and getting coached really comes in, because the more I was around really positive people who are working on themselves, it helped me to really grow faster and grow through issues to where I could take some bold steps. So being a part of community, I might never have left my relationship if I hadn't chosen to invest in myself and be in some different communities, some mastermind communities, some communities of personal growth where I was supported and even challenged to grow through some of my stuff. So, I definitely encourage you to find a community or communities that will support you in personal development, because, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than, I think, than working on yourself and moving through your stuff. If you want to overcome emotional eating, you're going to have to do that. Like, it's not food we're hungry for. We're hungry for something much deeper. And, the things inside of ourselves that need refining, that need changing, that stuff is often why we eat. And if we expect to not eat, we're going to have to look at that, and we're going to have to make changes. And emotional eaters don't like to do that. Like, we want everything to be happy, high notes, but just know that you're going to get to happy a lot sooner if you're willing to look at the things that aren't so happy inside yourself. But it's hard to do alone. So make sure you get with a community that's supporting you and challenging you to make changes in yourself, in who you are, not in your relationships. We really can't change relationships. We can change ourselves. We can change ourselves, and we can't change other people. One of the most important things that I've observed about myself as I've moved into new relationships is that I let go of trying to change other people. I did a lot of that in my relationship with my ex-husband. Is I was trying to change him. I was trying to make him be more of something I thought he should be so that I would feel okay. It's not like I was so interested in him and his well-being. No, I was trying to change him so that I felt more secure. So my ego was intact. So I felt more in control. Okay. So, when we are controlling other people, it's not because we think they need it. It's because we're trying to create an effect inside of us, effect of being okay, feeling good about, our lives. And so I did a lot of controlling and managing of this other person. And boy, oh boy, does that feel bad. That feels terrible. And it felt bad to him too. I got a lot of pushback finally, when he's like, screw you. Like, I don't want you controlling me or telling me what to do or how to dress or how to be. And so I learned, I am sorry for the ways that I did that in that relationship. I didn't have it all together, clearly. And a lot of my control and managing and self-centered fear came out in that relationship. And I hurt him with that, my trying to make him be different so that I felt different. It's a big trap for emotional eaters, because we do tend to be control freaks, and we're control freaks because of fear, because we have fear and we don't know how to manage that. So we manage other people to try to change, how we feel on the inside, to lessen our own fear. And that's not a fair thing to do. So take a look, if you're doing that in your relationship, take a look at that. But the nice thing is, because I had a new relationship, or I've had a few relationships now, I really feel like I've let that go, that need to control somebody else and make them be somebody I need them to be. And boy, does that feel good. It feels so good. And I did get to the place where I let it go with my ex-husband. I just threw up my hands and thought, I'm not going to change this guy, So I did change in that relationship, but I also got to enjoy a clean slate with a few other relationships where I just loved these men for who they were. I just loved them for who they were. And I'm so grateful for that. It feels so good to honor somebody by just loving them the way they are. It's not that they didn't have faults, but who was I to try to change them? Who was I to try to impose my ideas about how they should be on them? That's just not fair. And I don't want them doing it to me either. Right? It's a two-way street. So it felt so good, and continues to feel good, to just let people be who they are and the way they are, and love them no matter what. All we want from people is unconditional love. We owe that to other people as well. We owe giving that as well. So that has felt amazing to me, and I'm grateful. And that's, again, non-attachment, not being attached to them being a certain way, just letting them be who they are, letting them do what they do, look the way they look, act the way they act. I mean, obviously, if it's something inappropriate and we need to speak up for ourselves, of course we need to be honest in the relationship about our needs. But our needs don't generally include them changing for us, unless, again, it's something that's really up against something we really need. But otherwise, if it's an ego thing, we just want them to be different for our own ego or for our sense of, okayness. Not a good plan. So Jack Kornfield, another wonderful writer and philosopher, said, everything that has a beginning has an ending. Make your peace with that and all will be well. Everything has a beginning and an ending. Make peace with that and all will be well. And this is where, just coming back full circle to my own experiences with relationships, and especially with a few relationships lately, realizing that everything has a beginning and an ending has brought me peace. To just to wear everything like a loose garment, and to just realize that, reason, season, or a lifetime, it's not up to me. It's not up to me. I show up. I be the best person I can be. When I make mistakes, I need to amend them. If I don't know what mistakes I've made, I need to keep the line of communication open so I can learn. I need to be honest when I feel like, there are needs that I have, or ways that, things might need to change in the relationship. But otherwise, it's just really important to know that things do come to an end, and I don't want to be too attached. And what my experience is lately is when I'm not attached, and when I just realize, might be an ending, that's okay. If I'm not attached to holding on to things, new relationships will take their place. And that's been the silver lining in all this for me, is literally, just as these few relationships have appeared to come to an end, new people have reached out to me. People that I have not been friends with have reached out to me and indicated that they would like to get to know me better, like to spend time together, hang out together. And I'm just observing this. I'm like, wow, that is so cool. Like, when I just let things flow, when I let there be natural endings, there are natural beginnings as well. And it feels so good. I'm like, thank you, God. Like, these when things that aren't a fit, if you just let them go, things that are a fit or might even bring new awareness and new joy into your life, that you've left space for that to enter when you don't hold on, when you practice the art of non-attachment in relationships. So that's the beautiful thing, is that, there is an ebb and flow to life. And when I'm not attached, when I'm not insistent on holding on too tight, I can experience the new, the beginnings, the beautiful opportunities that await, because I've made space for that. So it's really a beautiful lesson. And I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope that you see things in your own relationships that might, need an airing or need some space, and just know that if you wear life like a loose garment, if you are unattached, it doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean that you're cold and uncaring. It just means that you're recognizing there's a greater flow, and you're just kind of open to that flow, and not inserting yourself to interrupt that flow. Amazing things can happen. So that's my message for you. I hope that helps. I love you so much. Please come back to the Secret Sauce group for other things that I might share, and announcements and support of each other, because there's so much to be learned here. So thank you so much. Sending you so much love. Take good care of yourself. You deserve it. Please review and share this show. The Secret Sauce group and the podcast. Please review and share. Thank you so much. Love you. Be well.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.